letter that Epstein would have written when he was in jail and right before his death. It didn't have an inmate number needed for outgoing mail, and then the writing also does not appear to match Epstein's handwriting. But even on its own, this was one of the illuminating things that had been found inside this trove of documents, had been obtained by the Bureau of Prisons and the Justice Department, and they did release it. And it had said that, to Larry Nassar, from a J. Epstein, our president shares a love of young nubile girls, something that Donald Trump has repeatedly said that he does not do that, and that he had much of a distance between himself and Epstein over the years after he kicked him out of the Mar-a-Lago club. Casey?
So, Caitlin, what did we find today? What else is out there that I know you mentioned that a lot of it has to do with the investigation? Presumably, these documents that we're seeing that represent emails, correspondence, communication among DOJ employees, FBI employees are legit.
Yeah, I mean, set aside something like this that has no context until the Justice Department comes up later in the day today and provides their statement saying that we believe this is fake. There are internal Justice Department documents, including records of the FBI interviewing witnesses, what those witnesses say. That may not be true, but there is something that is quite illuminating into the investigation around Epstein conspirator Ghislaine Maxwell before her trial. A prosecutor in the Southern District of New York got flight records of Epstein's in January 2020, at the time that he was the president, and flagged for the supervisor or someone else in the administration wrote an email saying that the flight records we received yesterday reflected that Donald Trump traveled on Epstein's private jet about 8 times between the years of 1993 and 1996. Some of those rides were taken with Ghislaine Maxwell on the flights. Some of those flights included women who would possibly be witnesses against Ghislaine Maxwell. And the line attorney, apparently writing this inside the Justice Department, noted that they hadn't been aware of this before investigating Maxwell in 2020. So this is after Epstein's death, and also that this person didn't want it to be a surprise down the road to whomever he or she is writing to. So a window there into the Justice Department, putting Trump in the realm of this investigation, even at a time he was president, even though he has never been accused of a crime, and apparently was not a subject or target in this investigation ever. Casey?
All right, Caitlin Polans, thanks very much for starting us off today. My panel is here in the arena: CNN political analyst, White House correspondent for the AP, Sang-Min Kim; CNN political commentator, Republican strategist and pollster, Kristen Soltis Anderson; Democratic Congressman from Virginia, Suha Subramaniam. He sits on the House Oversight Committee, which has been releasing batches of these images and documents from Epstein's estate. We're also joined by CNN political commentator, Republican strategist Brad Todd. Thank you all for being here, especially just a couple of days before Christmas. Director McCabe, I want to start with you on this because obviously noteworthy that the Department of Justice came out and said that they believe that this email is a fake underscores some of the pitfalls, right, of putting these documents out without any context. We were talking about this when the first batch came out. There were a lot of photographs released with not a lot of information about when or where or any of the other identifying information that would help us kind of understand them. What do you make of, and what is your understanding, having been inside the Bureau, of a document like this, and whether they would have determined that this was fake at the time? Just what context do you think is important?
Yeah, well, basically, Casey, all of that. This is one of the reasons why the FBI does not release the entirety of their investigative files really about anything ever. They release summaries, they release letterhead memos. Much more frequently, we present evidence in a court once someone's been, there's been a probable cause finding that someone committed a crime, then we go forward and prove that to be on a reasonable doubt. This letter, I think, is a perfect example of all of the kind of embedded pitfalls in what we have now. I totally understand, certainly the victims and the general public's desire to have transparency and accountability, but I just really worry that unleashing hundreds of thousands of documents in essentially a database without any guidance, context, explanations, analysis, is not ultimately very helpful in that process. So I'm not surprised at all that we're getting things like this and reacting very strongly and talking about them on news only for DOJ to come out and kind of puncture the balloon. The question is, are they going to give that same sort of effort for all of the other people